Good evening, and what is a cool, bright and sunny day. It is Tuesday the 25th of July, and I'm in the reading Nook with a nice hot cup of tea. And a parcel to unbox. So just going to get the knife to the packing tape. Okay, see where that's been. It is securely packaged, so I'm not quite sure where it's been. Yeah, just taking a bit more effort than your average parcel is. Okay, let's see what there we go. And then that comes off nice and neatly. What we've got here, let's have a look and see what I can find. Is this, which is a copy of the Reaper Fantasy Wargame rules by Richard Halliwell and Richard Priestley. Now this is the 1980. This is a table games product, and this is the version published in 1981. But they do actually date back to 1978. But these are the rules that were the forerunner for Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Essentially, the war, sort of like the war game with role-playing sort of like aspects, that would be the forerunner not only to essentially all the subsequent iterations of Warhammer Fantasy Battles, but out of that would come Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and then we go a bit forward. We would have the science fiction version with Warhammer, basically Warhammer 40,000 and so on. Didn't get the role-playing game for that until 2000, 2001, something like that, with the Dark Heresy role-playing game. So let's have a look at this. So this is actually quite a nice copy of this, but it looks very much like a 1980s product. We have this very quite tightly typeset layout, quite small text, so index and guidance for setting up the game, and we're really quickly into the rules, move sequence, classification of your troops, with the strength values, sort of like depending upon what they are. You've got modifications for your different creatures according to the type of armor they wear. And then these are examples here we've got based on figures manufactured by Citadel Miniatures. So already here what we've got is a set of rules for running fantasy battles using miniatures published by Citadel Miniatures. We've also got factors like ability factors, morale factors, and then we're talking about bases, and basically just talking about we've got advice in there how to organise your troops. Make them look good on the battlefield, make them careful, easy to handle. We have rules also for orders and morale, movement, so on. And then we actually get into the section where we've got combat, so missile and melee combat section, so dealing with missile combat, which essentially explained there, and it's all sort of valued on percentiles, so you're working out percentiles of what the chances to hit, and the same again for the melee combat as well, taking into things like tactical factors, glancing blows, breakthroughs, killing power, And then you've got a list there of mystical beasts in melee, so things like, you know, so pterodactyl on the ground, giant wolf, wyvern, serpent, giant spider, tree men, giant crabs, and similar. And then we've actually got the weapons chart for firing. And there's footbows, longbows, crossbows, horsebows, slings, throwing axes and pylons, javelins and darts, thrown stones, bottles, etc. And you've got a list of all the tactical factors down over there for your missile weapons. Let's just further forward through this. And then we have, you know, rates of fire, then the actual chart A, total chance to hit or strike blows chart. And there essentially you've got the you know, reference to blows, and we're talking about, you know, strike mighty blow, for example, which you'll see even down to the current iteration of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And then the amazing chart, this is, so we have the total percentage chance to hit or strike blows chart, that's chart A, and then chart B is the amazing chart for deciding whether the blows or hits kill. So we've got two charts there, one for determining whether you hit, and one for determining if the blow is effective or not. So then we're talking about flying creatures, and so all the rules there for flying creatures, including height bands, methods of attack, and you've got a couple of sort of essentially flight paths, sort of like there, so swooping down and then sort of like a dive. Tactical factors for airborne troops, and then flying troops in melee. Rules for observation and awareness. And, calculating magic users by their constitution. So this is for your rules for your wizard. Let's see what I misplaced. Yes, things to do. Yeah. So essentially, what we've got in here is uninformed points represent the distracting and disabling effects of a unit situation with its fighting capabilities. So it can be distracted and unable to fight. Then we've got things to do with magic, including sort of like your magic users' constitution. Spell catalogue, costing spells, and the like, and several different factors of magic. We've also got a little bit of a chart, it's basically a reference sheet there for carrying on. We're basically bringing that into play. It doesn't quite match the colour of the cover. But we also, so essentially, so the different factors, you know, taking into account our range of spell, areas of spell, individual effects, whether, you know, how many it's affecting within, you know, and whether or not the spell involves the creation of a thing, the destruction of a thing, zombie creation. That's factor 6. Factor 7 is a spell has to do with killing animate objects or general destruction. Factor 8. Factor 9 is movement and so on. 11, transmutation. Factor 10, immobilization. So think of these sort of like more as, I mean, essentially obviously spell effects, but a little bit of sort of like schools as well. And we're up to factor 13, factor 18. So 13 is producing your target independent sense of effect. 14 for illusions. Factor shrinking and expanding 15. Time factor 16. I'm having a time factor here right now as I work my way through all these spell effects. Magical protection factor 17. Factor 18. Magical protection against magic. Magical barriers 19. Wow. And then finally, it's sort of like, you know, how to combine all the factors, incorporating spells into the spell catalogue, and sort of like percentages of chance of working. I've got an explanation for the chart. effect of spells upon magic users table. And we have variable magic as well. So charms, necromancy, and then we've actually got some stats and so on for. Let's have a look. Charms, necromancy, spell numbers. You know, basically got a spell list starting here. Spirits, summoners. This takes a bit of reading through, I think, because it's quite a dense text, and it's quite a small text. But for summoning, we have lists of monsters there: air elementals, earth elementals, fire elementals, and water elementals. And then preparing for magic in play. And so you've actually got quite a big section of spelling, how to do it, and this is again spellcasting. So you've actually got quite a lengthy section on magic in the game. It's actually quite complex in comparison to the rest of the game. And then we've actually got the full spell list here. So flame bolt spell, induce sleep spell, and so on. Turn self to iron. Lock shatterer spell. So there's actually quite some interesting spells in here that sort of like kind of a bit of a strange one to have on the battlefield. Almost as if it's sort of you're meant to be doing more with the characters rather than just fighting on a battlefield. And then we have some gods. You've got the followers of Arlum, followers of Kalin. This is sort of like as factions. Followers of Tanith and Ashrath, and then we have sections on Una and Alil. So there's quite a lot in here, quite a dense book. Manifestations of Tanith and Astra, and so on, sort of like, how they will appear on the battlefield. Then we have appendices, the rules here for buildings and sieges, and sample army list, which is basically appendix 2. So actually appendix 2 is fire. Sorry, it's quite small text as I say. And then appendix 3 is your army and monster list. So we've got a goblin army of the north, army of high elves, dragon men, army of the red goblins, army of wood elves. So and then assorted monsters, lycanthropes, centaurs, gremlins, chimera, dragons, and spiders. Before appendix 4, which is hints, playing hints, and that's quite short. And then wounds and kills. Before you've got final rules for heroes on the last page. So yeah, so I'm not a wargamer, but I am interested in this essentially as the precursor to Warhammer Fantasy Battles. So that's why I have a copy, why I want to have a look at it and review it, which I will be doing in due course, because 1983 means, when Warhammer Fantasy Battles was released, means that it's 40 years old this year. So, excuse me. Hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a box containing a book or game, in this case a set of war game rules, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing of the Nook. Be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.